Iran versus Israel, the unseen war for the end times. The Middle East has long been a crucible of conflict, but few rivalries are as complex, deeply rooted, and potentially apocalyptic as the ongoing struggle between Iran and Israel. What began as a covert shadow war has erupted into a series of direct and deadly exchanges, pushing the region to the brink. Yet, beyond the headlines of missile strikes and geopolitical maneuvering, many believe there's another, far older battle being waged, an unseen war with profound biblical implications, unfolding as signs point toward the end times. Is the current escalation merely a political clash, or are we witnessing the convergence of ancient prophecies with modern hostilities? This isn't just about nations, it's about a conflict that some believe has been foretold for millennia. Iran, known in ancient times as Persia and Elam, plays a significant role in the Bible, both historically and prophetically. Historical references. Persian Empire and the Jews. The most prominent biblical mentions of Iran, Persia occur during the period of the Persian Empire. Cyrus the Great, King Cyrus of Persia, is highly revered in the Bible. He conquered Babylon in 539 BC, ending the Babylonian captivity of the Jews. He then issued an edict allowing the exiled Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verses 22 to 23, Ezra chapter 1 verses 1 to 4. This was a direct fulfillment of prophecies by Jeremiah and Isaiah, who even named Cyrus before his birth. Isaiah chapter 45 verse 1. Books of Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. These books are largely set within the Persian Empire. Ezra and Nehemiah detailed the return of the Jewish exiles and the rebuilding of the temple and Jerusalem's walls under the patronage of Persian kings like Darius I and Artaxerxes. The Book of Esther recounts how a Jewish woman, Esther, became queen of Persia under King Xerxes, Ahasuerus, and, with her cousin Mordecai, saved the Jewish people from a plot to annihilate them. Daniel. The prophet Daniel lived through the end of the Babylonian Empire and the rise of the Persian Empire. He served in the courts of both Babylonian and Persian kings. Daniel chapter 5 verse 31, Daniel 6. His prophecies depict the rise and fall of various empires, including Persia, e.g., Daniel chapter 8 verse 20. Elam. This ancient region, located in southwestern modern-day Iran, is also mentioned in the Bible. Jeremiah prophesied its conquest and eventual restoration. Jeremiah chapter 49 verses 34 to 39. Elamites are also mentioned among the diverse group of people present in Jerusalem on the day of Pentecost, Acts chapter 2 verse 9, indicating their presence and connection to the early Christian community. Prophetic significance. End times prophecy, Gog and Magog. Many biblical scholars interpret certain prophecies, particularly in the book of Ezekiel, as referring to modern-day Iran, Persia, in future end times events. Ezekiel 38-39 describes a large coalition of nations, led by Gog of the land of Magog, that will invade Israel in the latter days. Among the allies specifically mentioned is Persia, Ezekiel chapter 38 verse 5. While the exact identity of Gog and Magog is debated, many interpreters connect Persia, Iran, with this prophetic alliance, suggesting it will play a role in a future conflict against Israel. Overall, the Bible's portrayal of Iran, Persia, Elam, is multifaceted. Historically, it was a significant world power that, at times, was used by God to facilitate the return and restoration of his people, the Jews. Prophetically, it is seen by many as a key player in future events, particularly in relation to Israel. The Prince of Persia is a fascinating and often debated figure in the Bible, appearing in the book of Daniel, specifically in Daniel 10. It's important to understand that this prince is not a human ruler, but a powerful spiritual entity. Here's what the Bible tells us about the Prince of Persia. A demonic force. In Daniel 10, the prophet Daniel is in a period of intense prayer and fasting. An angelic messenger from God is sent to him with a revelation, but this messenger is delayed for 21 days. The reason for the delay is given in Daniel chapter 10 verse 13. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. And behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left alone there with the kings of Persia. This indicates a powerful spiritual being who was actively opposing the delivery of God's message. Spiritual warfare. This passage provides a rare glimpse into the concept of spiritual warfare, where battles are fought in the unseen realm that directly influence events on earth. The Prince of Persia is generally understood to be a high-ranking demonic entity assigned to the Persian Empire, working to hinder God's plans and influence the earthly rulers and people. Opposing God's will, the Prince of Persia was actively resisting the angel sent by God. This resistance wasn't just a passive obstruction. It was a deliberate act of opposition to prevent God's message and will from reaching Daniel and, by extension, the people of Israel. Michael's intervention. The angelic messenger explicitly states that he needed the help of Michael, identified as one of the chief princes, and elsewhere as the archangel who champions Israel. Daniel chapter 12 verse 1. This highlights the hierarchy within the angelic realm and the reality that even powerful good angels can face significant opposition from demonic forces. Territorial spirits. The idea of princes over kingdoms, like Persia and later, the Prince of Greece, mentioned in Daniel chapter 10 verse 20, suggests a concept of territorial spirits, demonic beings assigned to specific nations or regions to exert influence and opposition to God's work in those areas. Key takeaways. Not a human ruler. The Prince of Persia is not a historical Persian king like Cyrus or Darius. It is a spiritual being. Spiritual realm influence. The passage in Daniel 10 is crucial for understanding that events on earth are often influenced by unseen spiritual battles. God's sovereignty. Despite the opposition from the Prince of Persia, God's message ultimately reached Daniel, emphasizing God's ultimate sovereignty and ability to overcome any spiritual resistance. The importance of prayer. Daniel's prolonged prayer and fasting are seen as a catalyst for the angelic intervention and the eventual triumph over the Prince of Persia. The Prince of Persia serves as a powerful reminder for believers that there is a real spiritual battle, and that prayer plays a vital role in engaging with that battle and seeing God's purposes prevail. The relationship between Iran and Israel has evolved from a period of covert cooperation and shared interests before 1979 to a deeply entrenched and often violent rivalry today. While there haven't been traditional, full-scale wars, with formal declarations and large-scale ground invasions between their conventional armies, their conflict is very real and manifests in several ways. 1. Proxy wars and regional influence. Iran's axis of resistance. Iran heavily supports and funds various non-state actors and proxy groups across the Middle East, which Israel views as a direct threat. These include Hezbollah, Lebanon, a powerful Shia militant group and political party that has fought multiple conflicts with Israel. Iran provides significant financial, military, and training support to Hezbollah. Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Gaza, Palestinian territories, Sunni Palestinian militant groups that have launched attacks against Israel. Iran provides financial and military assistance to these groups. Houthi rebels, Yemen, a Shia movement that has engaged in missile and drone attacks against shipping in the Red Sea and, more recently, directly towards Israel. Various Shia militias, Iraq and Syria. Iran supports and influences numerous armed groups in these countries, which Israel often targets in airstrikes to prevent weapons transfers or the establishment of Iranian military infrastructure near its borders. Israel's counter-proxy operations. Israel actively works to counter Iran's influence and its proxy networks through airstrikes in Syria. Israel regularly conducts airstrikes in Syria, targeting Iranian assets, weapons convoys, and Hezbollah positions. Covert operations and sabotage. Israel is widely believed to be behind numerous cyber attacks, assassinations of Iranian nuclear scientists, and sabotage operations against Iran's nuclear and missile programs. Support for anti-Iranian groups. While less overt, Israel is sometimes alleged to support groups or individuals opposed to the Iranian regime. 2. Direct, covert, and escalating confrontations. Nuclear program. Israel views Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat, fearing Iran could develop nuclear weapons. This has driven much of Israel's covert actions and its public calls for international pressure and sanctions on Iran. War between the wars. This term describes Israel's strategy of conducting frequent, low-intensity operations, primarily airstrikes and covert actions, to degrade Iran's military capabilities, prevent the transfer of advanced weapons to its proxies, and disrupt its nuclear program, without sparking an all-out conventional war. Recent direct exchanges, 2024-2025. There have been significant escalations in direct military confrontation recently. April 2024 Iranian missile and drone attack on Israel. Following an Israeli airstrike on Iran's consulate in Damascus that killed Iranian military commanders, Iran launched an unprecedented direct missile and drone attack on Israel. Most of these projectiles were intercepted by Israel and its allies. Israeli response, April 2024 onwards, Israel responded with limited strikes inside Iran, targeting air defense systems and other military sites. More recently, June 2025, Israel has conducted larger-scale strikes on Iranian nuclear and military facilities. Ongoing retaliation. Both sides have continued to exchange strikes, with Israel targeting high-ranking Iranian military and nuclear scientists, and Iran launching missile barrages towards Israel. 3. Military capabilities comparison. Iran. Numerical superiority. Iran has a much larger population and active military personnel. Missile and drone arsenal. Iran has a significant and growing arsenal of ballistic missiles and drones, including hypersonic missiles, capable of reaching Israel. It has heavily invested in these capabilities as a deterrent and a means of projecting power. Older conventional military. Iran's conventional air force and ground equipment are largely older, with many assets dating back to before 1979 or sourced from Russia and China, and often suffer from a lack of modern maintenance due to sanctions. Proxy strength. A key component of Iran's strategy is its well-armed and trained proxy forces in the region. Israel. Technological superiority. Israel possesses a highly advanced military with cutting-edge technology, much of it supplied by the United States, e.g., F-35 fighter jets. Air superiority. Israel maintains significant air superiority in the region. Advanced air defense systems. Israel has a multi-layered air defense system, Iron Dome, David's Sling, Arrow, designed to intercept various types of incoming projectiles. Intelligence and special operations. Israel has highly capable intelligence agencies, Mossad, and special forces that conduct covert operations. Nuclear deterrent, undeclared. Israel is widely believed to possess nuclear weapons, maintaining a policy of strategic ambiguity. U.S. support. The United States is a strong ally of Israel, providing military aid, intelligence sharing, and political backing. In conclusion, while not characterized by traditional wars with front lines and large-scale conventional ground battles, the conflict between Iran and Israel is a deeply ingrained and escalating struggle fought through proxies, covert actions, cyber warfare, and increasingly, direct missile and drone exchanges. It is a defining conflict in the Middle East, with significant regional and global implications. As of Tuesday, June 17, 2025, the conflict between Iran and Israel has escalated significantly and is currently in its fifth day of intense direct military exchanges. This marks an unprecedented period of open warfare between the two long-standing adversaries. Here's a summary of the current situation. Escalation to direct strikes. The conflict moved from its usual proxy war and covert operations phase to direct military attacks. This began after an Israeli airstrike on Iran's consulate in Damascus on June 12, which killed several high-ranking Iranian military commanders and scientists. Israeli offensive. Israel launched a major offensive on Friday, June 13, using warplanes and drones to strike various targets across Iran. These targets have included nuclear and military infrastructure. Notably, Israel has targeted Iran's main nuclear enrichment facility in Natanz and a nuclear research facility in Isfahan, as well as radar installations and surface-to-air missile launchers. While Israel claims to have degraded Iran's nuclear program, the full extent of the damage is still being assessed, and some reports suggest key facilities like Fordow remain largely intact. Military command and leadership. Israel claims to have killed several top Iranian military leaders, including General Mohammad Bagheri, who oversaw the armed forces, General Hossein Salami, who led the Revolutionary Guard, and General Emir Ali Hajizadeh, who headed the Guard's ballistic missile program, as well as two top nuclear scientists. On Tuesday, Israel also claimed to have killed Ali Shadmani, Iran's wartime chief of staff and a close aide to Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Civilian and infrastructure targets. Reports indicate that Israeli strikes have also hit residential areas, oil refineries, and government buildings, including the headquarters of Iran's state television. Casualties. Iranian authorities report at least 224 people killed and over 1,200 wounded in Iran, with a significant number being civilians. Iranian retaliation. Iran has retaliated by launching hundreds of drones and missiles against Israel. Missile and drone barrages. Iranian missiles and drones have been launched towards major Israeli cities, including Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa. While Israel's multi-tiered air defense system, including Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow, has intercepted many projectiles, some have reportedly penetrated the defenses, striking residential areas and causing damage. Casualties. Israel has reported at least 24 people killed and over 500 wounded due to Iranian attacks. Targeting claims. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has claimed to have targeted intelligence buildings in Herzliya, the Mossad and the Israeli Haman military intelligence. International concerns. There are widespread international calls for de-escalation, with fears growing that the conflict could spark a wider regional war. U.S. involvement. The United States, a strong ally of Israel, has expressed concern, and President Donald Trump has issued ominous messages, urging Tehran residents to evacuate immediately. There are reports of some level of military coordination between the U.S. and Israel. Nuclear concerns. The IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, has noted direct impacts on parts of Iran's Natanz facility and is monitoring radiation levels, reiterating that nuclear facilities must never be attacked. Diplomacy. Talks between Tehran and Washington regarding Iran's nuclear program have been suspended. Evacuations. Countries like Japan, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia have evacuated their citizens from Israel. Current status. As of today, June 17, 2025, both sides continue to trade strikes. Israel claims full air supremacy over Tehran, while Iran vows further, more forceful attacks. The situation remains highly volatile and unpredictable. The Prince of Persia and Michael's intervention, as described in the Book of Daniel, are purely spiritual concepts within a biblical context and are not directly involved in the physical Iran versus Israel current war exchanges, as we understand them in a geopolitical sense. Here's why and how these biblical concepts are interpreted in relation to real-world events, though without direct causality. The Prince of Persia and Michael's intervention, biblical context. The Prince of Persia, Daniel 10, as previously discussed, this is a powerful demonic entity, a territorial spirit, assigned to the Persian, ancient Iranian, kingdom. Its role was to resist God's angelic messengers and hinder divine plans related to the earthly nations. It is not a human ruler or a military leader. Michael, the archangel. In Daniel 10, Michael is described as one of the chief princes, and is specifically identified as the angelic protector or champion of Israel. Daniel chapter 12 verse 1. He intervenes to assist the angelic messenger who was delayed by the Prince of Persia. Spiritual warfare. This passage vividly illustrates the concept of spiritual warfare, a battle in the unseen realm between good and evil spiritual forces, which has direct implications for events on earth. Demonic forces seek to oppose God's will and influence nations, while angels work to carry out God's purposes. Connecting to the Iran-Israel conflict, interpretive lens, not direct involvement. While the Prince of Persia and Michael are not literally flying around in the skies above Iran and Israel engaging in dogfights with drones, some people with a strong biblical worldview might interpret the current conflict through the lens of spiritual warfare. 1. Behind-the-scenes spiritual battle. From this perspective, the current geopolitical conflict between Iran and Israel is seen as having a deeper, spiritual dimension. It's believed that demonic forces, like a modern-day Prince of Iran, or similar territorial spirits, might be influencing leaders, fostering hatred, and inciting conflict, while angelic forces, led by figures like Michael, are working to counter these influences and protect God's purposes for Israel and the world. 2. Prophetic implications. Given Iran's historical and prophetic ties in the Bible, especially in Ezekiel 38-39, where Persia is mentioned as part of a coalition against Israel in the latter days, some interpret the current escalating tensions as fulfilling or moving towards these biblical prophecies. Within this framework, the spiritual powers mentioned in Daniel are seen as active forces driving these prophetic events. 3. The role of prayer. For those who believe in spiritual warfare, the intense conflict between Iran and Israel underscores the need for fervent prayer. Just as Daniel's prayer was crucial for Michael's intervention against the Prince of Persia, believers might pray for divine intervention, for peace, for the protection of innocent lives, and for God's will to be done in the region. They would believe that prayer can influence the spiritual realm and, by extension, the physical outcome of the conflict. 4. No direct causality in physical conflict. It's crucial to reiterate that this is an interpretative framework. The Bible does not suggest that the current exchange of missiles and drones is literally a direct physical battle between angels and demons. Rather, it's about the unseen spiritual forces that are believed to influence the actions and decisions of human leaders and nations, leading to real-world conflicts. In summary, the Prince of Persia and Michael's intervention are powerful biblical metaphors for the spiritual battle that many believe underlies human history and conflicts. While they are not physically involved in the contemporary Iran-Israel war exchanges, their conceptual roles in spiritual warfare provide a framework for some to understand the deeper, unseen forces at play in such significant geopolitical events. Iran versus Israel, the unseen war for the end times. The escalating exchanges between Iran and Israel are undeniably a dangerous geopolitical reality, demanding immediate global attention to avert wider catastrophe. Yet, to view this conflict solely through the lens of political maneuvering and military might is to miss a crucial dimension for many. Whether one subscribes to the literal interpretation of ancient prophecies or perceives it as a metaphorical struggle for regional dominance, the echoes of an unseen war reverberate profoundly. As the Middle East grapples with an unprecedented period of direct confrontation, the question remains: are we witnessing merely the latest chapter in a long-standing earthly rivalry, or are these very real battles simultaneously fulfilling a more profound, even end-time, narrative, drawing humanity into a conflict far older than the nations themselves? The answer, for many, will shape their understanding of the future.